Hey friends, this is Beverly Wolfie. It's me. I'm really exhausted. God, I hope I'm public. Am I public? Because if anybody's here, nobody's here yet. I'm going to give this another 30 seconds or so. And if nobody shows up, I'm going to assume that this is private or unlisted. People are starting to show up. Okay. That means I'm public. I'm exhausted. I was going to do a live feed at the Quilt Frame. Please tell me. Oh, where is my. Hey, Deborah and Lisa. Tell me how I'm coming through because I did a speed test before I decided to stream, and it said that my internet was running really fast. So please tell me that I'm not pixelating or you know what I mean. Oh, wonderful. I'm so tired. I'm gonna roll me some medication. I haven't slept in 2 days. Well, I can't say I haven't slept. I've dozed. And it's one of those things, where I've switched doctors. And he was supposed to renew all my prescriptions, but I forgot to pick up the paper. So I phoned it into the pharmacy, and the pharmacy said, we don't have it. And then I had to phone my doctor's office and say, please phone in my prescriptions. And they said, it'll cost you $10. I said, okay, just do it. And I've been 2 days without my sleeping pills, without my lorazepam. And even with the lorazepam and marijuana, I get, if I'm lucky, 5 hours in a stretch, and that's a really good stretch. I haven't had more than 45 minutes sleep in a snatch in 2 days. I can't medicate on camera, and I won't medicate on camera. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'll be right back. I gotta go get a bud.
Say hi to Gracie. Say hi to Gracie. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Gracie, hush. 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 Oh my goodness. Quick flash there. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Wow. That really is a beautiful piece. I can't medicate on camera or they'll demonetize this video. And that's it. That's all, no more. I don't even know if they'll do it because I showed the bud. But what was I going to say? Oh, the book. I've read the first 2 chapters of Anne's House of Dreams. And it's going to be a short book. I don't think there's more than 20 chapters. And the chapters are probably most of them are no more than 10 or 15 minutes long. So make sure you're on live chat, not top chat. And I want to talk about what we want to read next. Because, I can do the Narnia series, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's going to go over because it's more of a younger set of books. But I really enjoyed them. I read them when I was 16. I really enjoyed them. And then there's Little Women. And then there's another book I have called The Fields at Evening. You'd listen to me read the phone book. Oh, God bless you, honey. Then there's a book called The Fields at Evening, and it deals with the life of a family of farmers through 3 generations, from the Victorian era all the way up to the Second World War. And I would read it, except every time it took me, I mean, I've read the book 4 times, and it took me to the 4th time to understand that when he said, "Oh, over the bowed locks of the corn," or the fields of corn, he didn't mean corn, he meant grain, because we call all grains like oats and all that stuff, we call it grain. They call, or back then, they called all grains corn. So it threw me off for a long time. Okay, it's called The Fields at Evening, and it's a generational jump, and it shows how, it's just really good. All right. Okay, so the next book we'll take up after Anne's House of Dreams. We'll do The Fields at Evening, because it's a good book. It really is, and it shows how we let government do a lot of things. Shows how the Industrial Revolution didn't necessarily, it may have sped things up, but it didn't necessarily do the land any favors. You know what I mean? So there's only 11 of okay, how many people are actually talking who are in chat? I don't have any moderators today. Oh, Mary Jean. Mary Jane is home from having her fistula port put in her, I think it's in this part of her arm, and she has a cast on it so that it's not disturbed. And she's going into the hospital, back to the hospital next week to have the cast cut off so that they can examine the incision and how it's healing. But they put the cast on for the protection of the port. I love listening to you read as I work in the kitchen. I'm doing my applesauce today. Oh, good for you. Yeah, I've got to do apples. But I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired right now. But one good thing about these, Gracie just laid down on her blanket behind me. One good thing about not sleeping well over the last couple of nights and not having lorazepam is, A, I'm really, really tired. You scratching? A, I'm really tired. And B, I haven't had lorazepam for 2 days. That means it's actually going to work better tonight because my system's been clear of it for a couple of days. And my harvest is in, so I will be making butter soon. Hi, Mary. How are you? Let me say hi to everybody. Hi, Lisa, Debbie, Carmi, Deborah E, Lisa, Deborah E. Oh, I'm just reading them. Mary, Gloria, Alexis. I listen to your stories while I knit booties for the new babies in our church group. Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice. I fully intended on doing this live stream at the quilt frame today, but I'm just like, I'm afraid to go near the quilt when I'm this tired, because mistakes would be the least of my problems. My luck, I would drop a cup of tea on it or something. Right. So, hey, Jody, how are you, darling? Okay, so the next book will be The Fields at Evening, and at least it's not a book in a series, right? It's just one book. So I will read that one next, and then we'll decide whether we have Little Women, or I've actually been thinking of reading some Jane Austen. But the truth is, the language is so foreign, even though it's English, it's older English. I struggle. I don't struggle reading it, but I would struggle reading with it out loud. But I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. I'm dizzy today, otherwise good. Well, then, don't be lifting anything and don't walk too far today, sweetheart. Thank you for reading the Laura Ingalls Wilder books. Wife, kids, and I love them. Oh, well, hello, Joseph, and thank you. Thank you. One of these days, I might reread them because I go back and listen to them and I wince, you know. I listen to you read when I go to sleep. Your voice is wonderfully soothing. Really? Well, that may change. Audible, they got this whole Audible thing out where you can, listen to audiobooks. So me on YouTube, I might just become redundant. Who knows? Oh, I need my cup of tea. I got up. Well, I wasn't really sleeping, but I finally got up and said, forget it. I'm just going to get up. And then I just sat down and Briar phoned and said, Mom, did my card come in the mail? It's like, yes. Can you bring it to Brennan's Hill? Because he's working at the other store today. There's 2 stores he works at that are owned by the same thing. So I'm sorry. I'm so unfocused right now. I'm so unfocused. It's not funny. But I am doing my turkey shepherd's pie kind of thing that I put together after Thanksgiving. So that's supper tonight. That's easy. All I have to do is take a pint of my turkey broth and make a gravy and pour it all over. I'm going to have to pour it over the mashed potatoes and then bake it because, I can't do it any other way. But the mashed potatoes are in scoop balls so that the gravy will go down in between. So, hey, Julie Britt, how are you, darling? So how is everybody doing? Like I said, for the folks that are just arriving, I've read the first 2 chapters. Oh, yeah, okay. I'll go ahead and medicate. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. You see this office? Don't get seasick, okay? I'll cover the camera for you. That's where my printer is. This is my desk right here. And that's where my printer is, which I rarely use anymore, and my file cabinet. And then I have this cabinet and all these things. And then I have a dresser for fabric, and I have those. And I have a shelf over there that really doesn't do much good. There's my sewing table, or my sewing area. And we're back around to me. So I have kind of hang on a second, folks. I don't mean to make you seasick there. I have kind of a plan. Scott, Lee, and Doss, good morning from Eastern Oregon. Love your narrations. Reminds us days when our 4th grade teacher would read to us. I sound like your 4th grade teacher? Holy smokes, I'm honored. So my plan is, you're trying to get over pneumonia, well, drink lots of clear fluids. And when I say clear fluids, it doesn't mean cream in your coffee, because dairy products create phlegm. So please, please, please stay away from dairy and drink chicken broth and regular tea with honey and lemon, no milk. You know what I mean? Lots of water, because believe it or not, the more clear fluid you drink, the more it hydrates the phlegm and the pockets of infection, so that they can literally break up, so you can cough them out. Okay, so lots and lots of clear fluids. I don't think that you're told like, oh yeah, I drink lots of clear fluids, but seriously, that is the number 1 way to beat chest congestion when you're congested with an infection or phlegm. Hi, Sandra. How are you, darling? Oh, when recess had to be inside because of the rain. I remember those days. I wish I had some of your leek and celery broth. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that would do really good. That would do really good. What was like? Oh, The Office. So we've seen how tiny The Office is. How many of you folks are with me on our half acre homestead as well? Can I get a head count of how many people here are from our half acre homestead? Because I really don't want to cross talk about our half acre homestead if nobody wants to hear it. Greetings, Scott and Lee. I'm in Southern Oregon. Oh, Okay, me waving. Okay. Howie went down the basement and said, "Where did we get the 7-foot Christmas tree?" And I said, I said, the YouTube family paid for that. So that, because if you remember, our YouTube family Christmas tree is only 4 feet, and it was loaded last year, and I've been sent more ornaments. So what I want to do is this. Nan left a couple of dressers behind for me to deal with. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to that one downstairs or out to the garbage, because truly garbage, something like that goes out to the curb, somebody will pick it up. That's just the way it is. But I think I'm going to replace that shelf over there and this dresser here with a pair of matching dressers, because I'm running out of space for my fabric. But if I replace this dresser and that set of shelves with 2 good dressers, I now have more room here. And I'm thinking of getting rid of the filing cabinet, and I think I'm going to get rid of the filing cabinet and bring the bedside table that she used, and put my printer on it or whatever. But I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put the Christmas tree so it can be in the backdrop when we visit. You know what I mean? Okay. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of revamping, not my desk. My desk cannot move. This monstrous thing cannot move. It's where it's going to stay. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Howard to bring up those two dressers, and I'm going to actually, no, I can't move my sewing table over there because it would block the door, but I'm going to actually rework this, and I may be able to put my tree in front of the sewing machine, for Christmas, our tree, because it would be right behind me, and I'm not planning on using my sewing machine after the end of November. So that's what I'm thinking. So it would be like right here, right behind me. I'd have a little Christmas tree sticking up out of my head. So yeah, let me get my paper here going. So has everybody got their so I hear everybody's enjoying the home economics. See how exhausted I am? The home economics videos on our half-acre homestead. And tomorrow's video is what we had for supper last night. And it was spaghetti supper with bread muffins, bread style muffins. I think they're mayonnaise muffins. And the whole meal with leftovers, with seconds for Howie, and leftover muffins that I could butter and jam and put in his lunch today. And that whole meal was only $3.47. So looking forward to your tree. I no longer do trees, but love a Christmas tree. Well, we'll always have 2. I'm actually thinking of putting the 4-foot one up downstairs. Just because when but the thing is nobody really uses the downstairs. Right now we're using what was the back bedroom as a room for a grow tent. Oh, I'm trying to roll stuff that isn't even in my roller. So, but Howie said, oh, and that's another thing, where my TV and everything is in my living room. There's bookshelves to the left of the TV, and then there's this TV cabinet to the right. And either that cabinet's going to Briar or it's going downstairs. But I'm taking all the books off my shelves, putting them in boxes, and Howie's going to get rid of that cabinet one way or the other. And then he's going to pull the TV out and he's going to repaint that back wall because it's just got to be repainted. He's going to repaint the back wall. And then my bookshelves are going to go to the right where that ugly cabinet is, because that's going to go downstairs as a like a blanket box and a bookshelf, I think. But my bookshelves are going to go over there, and then the piano is going to go up against the wall to the left of the TV, and then I've got my bay window to put a great big tree in this year. So yeah, last year I had a pretty skinny tree because I didn't want to move things around too much. But if we get rid of that cabinet, because it's really an elephant in the living room, because it only holds blankets for when Briar comes and stays over. And it's just, it's just totally dead space. So nobody talking? Am I missing something? Nobody speaking? So that kind of stuff is I'll probably do a video of how we're. Hey, Helena 22, how are you, sweetheart? That is probably going to be a video because it's economy of space. And it'll open up my living room more for a nice big tree. And that's about that. So that's going to be a video. Ow, my stomach. Oh man, I hope it's not. I have mood disorder pills, and they're hard on the stomach. So I have to eat when I go to bed at night, like a meal, like a bowl of soup or a sandwich or something, to be in my stomach when I take my mood disorder meds. And but my stomach, because of the gastric bypass, my stomach wall is very, very thin. So I can't take any anti-inflammatories. And why my tummy's upset. Hang on. Anyway, I worry because I've been on those pills for 26 years. And it would be really, really hard to find a replacement that doesn't, because I mean, we've just got, anybody who knows me, we've just gotten to the point where the medication I'm on is like, even my doctor went, you're only on 3 medications. And I said, well, 2 every day. And those muscle relaxers only when I need them. And he goes, wow, have you ever tried, it's like, don't. And I talked to him for 15 minutes straight about why he can't mess with my meds and gave him examples of, psychotic behavior and stuff when the doctor just tried to change my sleeping pills and it interacted with my mood disorder drugs, and it's a nightmare. So, oh, new meds. Well, yeah. I asked Mary Jane to come in just to say hi, but she said, I'm exhausted. She said, Bev, I'm medicated to the eyeballs and my arm's in a cast. And I went, okay. She said, next week, when I get the cast off, if they don't put it back on, then she said, we'll do, I can come in and moderate and say hi to everybody. But she wanted me to tell everybody, thank you for the prayers. She's doing okay. So far, so good. Her body's accepting the dialysis port. Hey, Claire, how are you? So, anything else fast? Hey, let's have a ask me anything. There's only like 16 of us here. Ask me anything, and let's see what I come up with. I do reserve the right to say when a question is too personal, but half the time, you know me. Having a good day, Judy. Hey, honey. So let's do an Ask Bev Anything. So you come up with a question or two, and this is the strength of my angst today. No Slim Jims for me. You messaged me a bit earlier. You messaged me where, sweetheart? Because I rarely look at Facebook Messenger. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna put my hand up. Okay, question. How do you decide? Excuse me. How do you decide on a quilt pattern to make? Well, if I'm in a time crunch, it depends on the size of the quilt, how much time I have, and the people I'm making it for, or the person I'm making it for. For instance, this quilt is for my nephew Mikey and his intended Amanda, and they're getting married in January, and I've just started quilting it. Mikey and Amanda have a cat. His name's Krusty. Don't ask me why. And I was having issues with the mouse. So with mice, and I saw this pattern for this quilt on just a little picture on the internet. And is my phone ringing? Okay. And I decided, oh, wow, I really like that. Now, the main block is called Puss in the Corner. And the other block, I don't know what it is. It's just a postage stamp in the middle of a blank block, supposedly blank block. So it reminded me of a mouse trap. So I just called it the cat and mouse quilt, because I named the single block the mouse trap, and the other one the puss in the corner. So I call it the cat and mouse quilt. But Mikey has a cat, and I know that their apartment right now is not it doesn't have as many windows, and it's in the city. So it's rather dark or dim at times. So I thought a whiter, brighter quilt would actually brighten up their bedroom. So I mean, it all depends. It all depends. Sometimes it's just because I want to be challenged. Can I send you an email with pictures of my dogs? If you like, mrsvolfe@gmail.com. Where are your grandparents and great-grandparents from? Oh, well, that's easy on my dad's side. My parents on my dad's side landed in Canada in 1919. So I'm what they would call a first generation Canadian on my dad's side. They came from Scotland. And my mother's family, it's a little more convoluted. There's some native in there. Some of my family on my mother's side has been in Canada for over 100 years. Well, no, wait a second. My grandparents landed in 1919. That was 100 years ago. So probably some of my family on my mother's side's been in Canada, mostly from England, since 200 years. So mostly English and Scottish. What do I want for Christmas? So many things. What I want for, what? I'm going to do a home economics video on what I want for Christmas. What I want for Christmas is to people to mute the commercials from here until Christmas, because commercials cost us money in the holiday season, and people get revved up, and it starts out really subtle. until you're almost mania. So as soon as I saw the first Christmas commercial, a house for the holidays or something, I said to Howie, start muting the commercials or I will. Because I don't like to be pushed into Christmas. I like getting there at my own pace. And I don't like the mania and the commercialism of it. So what I want for Christmas really is a Gemasert. A Gemasert is a $500 machine that I can put a bud of marijuana in, and it will do imaging, and it'll tell me how much THC is in it, how much CBD is in it, and I think on the CBDs, and it will tell me, it'll certify it'll tell me it'll give me the information I need to know so that I can adjust how I grow things and stuff like that. And I want a chicken coop. I'm gonna order myself a chicken coop from Wayfair and hang the expense. My grandparents also came over from England. I'm second born Canadian. Yeah, my dad's older brother was conceived on the way over and born when they landed. And my dad was born 6 years after they landed. And when he was growing up, if anybody remember A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, where Francie was in class and she said, I'm American. She said, we know you're American. What's your nationality? And she said, American. Both my parents were born here. But even if Francie had been born there, if her parents had been from the old country, like the other kids' parents, she would have been called an Irish American or a German American, because her mom's family was from Austria and her dad's family was from Ireland. But they were both born in the United States, and that made Francie a first-generation American. That's why I call myself a first-generation Canadian. What inspired me to read for people? Part of it was my mother-in-law, and she never actually, because she had problems with one of her eyes and it never got better, and I thought she would enjoy them, but she never went in on it. Once the very first book we ever read was 1984. Noreen and I shared reading that. And that's when I decided, people wanted to hear more books. So I started looking on what I was allowed to read in the public domain. And damn if the Little House on the Prairie books weren't there. So I went, why not? And I realized that a lot of people, I get a lot of people who use them for homeschooling. You know what I mean? So like A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, that's required reading in New York, in the schools of New York, or it used to be. So if someone local builds coops, well, see, that's the thing. I just want a little one. I just want like 6 chickens. And I would buy them ready to lay, and I would butcher them in November for broth and meat, canned broth and meat, chicken for the winter, soup for the winter. But last year I was going to order one, and Howie said, I can build one for cheaper than that. And he never did. So it's like, you know what? I'm only going to, that's been our problem, has been overwintering animals. But he's also talking about eventually building a shop up on the piece of property, the new part of our 1-acre homestead. And if he builds that shop up there, I'm going to have him close the barn back in, and I'll just put chickens in my barn. But that's years ahead. We're on a budget right now to get out of debt. And if we get out of debt and he wants to build a shop and he can do it economically, then why not? Because when he retires, he'll never really retire. He wants to still continue to putter at bodywork in the backyard kind of thing. Just came on. How is Mary Jane? Those books are my antidepressant. Hi, Mrs. V. I thought I was Mrs. V. Just came on. Mary Jane's good. She's got a cast on her arm holding the vistula or fistula dialysis port in place. She goes back next week and they take the cast off and check and see how it is doing, because it takes 6 weeks to 2 months to mature before they can actually use it. Her body has to accept it and it has to mature in her body. So far, so good. So far, so good. And she's coming up on the 10th of November and staying with me till the 15th, because Howie's going away to South Carolina to do a BMW training course. So she's coming up to stay with me, and we're going to do a video showing her port and explaining how it works on our half-acre homestead. She's also bringing a dress that she bought from Value Village and some fabric or lace or something she bought, and we're going to try and do a home economics video on taking a Value Village dress and making it suitable for the mother of the groom, because her son Jeremy's getting married. Fistula, thank you. Is anyone else buffering? So for the folks who just got here, we are going to read a book from England next. It's called The Fields at Evening, and it follows a family through 3 generations of farming from the Victorian era right up to World War II. You two together are a hoot. Well, I was fully prepared, if anything happened and that port didn't work or her body rejected it, they say she'd only have like 2 weeks to live or whatever. I don't understand that. But if it came down to she only had 2 weeks to live, she'd be here. And that would be that. She would be in my home being taken care of by me. Howie would probably move into the basement for the duration, but so, okay, sending prayers. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a puff, okay? I got this stupid song stuck in my head. Oh, you could see that there. I got that. Oh, no. Excuse me. Excuse me. So, so anyway, what was I going to say? I got this stupid song stuck in my head. Did anybody ever watch that series Breaking Bad? Howie and I watched this series Breaking Bad that was on Netflix from beginning to end. We watched Breaking Bad. I don't know if it was on Netflix we watched it or on TV. Bev, could you do a video on crochet like you did knitting? I would love to learn how to crochet. Thing is I know how to crochet with my hands and my brain. I can't read patterns because no one ever taught me. I'm self-taught. So I don't know if, I am thinking of making a new tree skirt, Christmas tree skirt, but that's a lot of yarn. What's in the cup? Tea. Are you kidding? That's all I drink. I drink tea and I drink water. Once in a blue moon, I'll make a jug of Kool-Aid, because you guys all sent, a whole bunch of people sent me unsweetened Kool-Aid because I couldn't find it here. And I use the unsweetened Kool-Aid with organic, and I cut the sugar in half and I use organic sugar, and I kid myself into thinking I'm drinking something okay as a treat. This is Yorkshire Gold, Taylors of Harrogate Yorkshire Gold tea, my absolute favorite. Don't know if you saw my question, but was wondering if you would read the Game of Thrones series. Not sure I'm allowed. That's the thing. And oh my God, you're killing me for character voices. Like, seriously, guys? That would just destroy me. I mean, Anne of Green Gables has been a real challenge because I've had to read multiple characters. Well, I guess I have in most of the books, but I mean, with Little House on the Prairie, it was all those books, it was fairly easy, right? But the more complicated the story, the more complicated the characters, the harder it is for me and the longer it takes me to edit. And there is the fact that I'm not sure if it's on the Canadian public domain. But if you can find out, if it, if you find books that are on the Canadian public domain that you want me to read, email me and put it on there. But please check. I can't go through all the setup and reading of a book to find out that there's a copyright issue. It has to be on the Canadian public domain. Oh, what kind of tea? Yeah. Your Taylor's of Harrogate Yorkshire Gold. It's my absolute favorite tea. To the crochet crowd on YouTube, go to the crochet crowd on YouTube. He is awesome and teaches you one step at a time. Well, there you go. I don't think anyone minds if you smoke without blocking view. I know, honey, but it's not you. It's YouTube. If I were to spark that up on camera, they would immediately demonetize my video. The only videos I can actually medicate on are the ones for the weed too, because that's an age restricted website anyway. Right? And it's the weed tube. Right? So, but thank you for that, future homesteader. Future homesteader. So anyway, Howie and I watched this whole Breaking Bad series, and there was a movie put out on Netflix about one of the characters after Walter White died, and his name is Jesse, and the movie's called El Camino. And they brought back a lot of characters from Breaking Bad because they had to go back in the past to get to where he was now, right? Don't shoot the teacher. Kelly, check and see if it is on the public domain. Okay. And there's also the fact that if there's swearing in them, I mean, I just finished reading the book, The Help, again. I love that book. But I know for a fact, even if I got copyright permission to read that book, YouTube would strike it because the N word is in it. And I say the N word because saying the actual word upsets a lot of people. I'm Canadian. I don't have that cultural, emotional attachment to slavery because I'm Canadian. So yeah, it's okay. So El Camino. I watched El Camino, and you remember, Todd, the psychopath. He's a sociopath. Very pleasant man, but he could kill you like that if you just, if you break or cross one of his lines, you're dead. And here he's got a dead body in the back of the El Camino, and Jesse's tied up behind it, and he's driving along singing a Dr. Hook song, sharing the night together. Whoa. And it's been stuck in my head for 2 friggin' days. I can't get it out. Hectanuga 1 is a Canadian who teaches crochet brilliantly. Okay, thank you. You have the movie of The Help. Oh, the book's really good. The book's really good. And I would love to be able to do that book. I would love to be able to do that book. Because I think I got Minnie down pat. Eat shit. Eat my shit. I would have Minnie down in a heartbeat. I really would. Can you read Helen Keller? Pretty sure I could. Because I think that book, Again, if you want me to read a book, I will make a list compiled by you. But your part in the transaction is please check if it is available on the Canadian public domain. Because if I start reading, again, if I start reading a book and it's not on there, I have to stop and take the video down. So please check that. And if you find it's on the Canadian public domain, email me. Email me the book, the book title, and assurances that it's on the Canadian public domain, and I'll start compiling a list because I'm reading for you guys, right? Can you read how, Mike? How to check? Well, you put the book title in, and you put, is the book blank, blank, blank on the Canadian public domain? And it'll tell you yes or no. I'm new and have only listened to the Little House series. What do you recommend next? Well, I recommend them all. There's 9 Brides in Granny Height, which is fun. There's A Lantern in Her Hand, which is a really good book. I don't think I did it justice. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn is a must. So, and I'm still in the 3rd book of the Anne of Green Gables series, so I wouldn't start the Anne of Green Gables series yet, because it's probably going to take me a month or 2 to get that book finished. But it's winter, it's reading time. So, so anyway, any more questions? Because it is Ask Me Anything Day, and I mean absolutely anything. Just, don't be vulgar, is all. You're welcome, Jane. So if there are no questions, I'm going to go see if I can sit down and quilt and watch some TV, because now I'm a little more smooth. Exhaustion. Ooh, Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff. Wuthering Heights. I can do Jane Eyre. I can do Wuthering Heights. You want a ghost story? Ooh, well, we'll have to find, then we're getting into like Edgar Allan Poe stuff. And so please, anything really old, like Wuthering Heights, the Bronte sisters, like Jane Eyre. Oh God, I love Jane Eyre. And Jane Austen, all those, Canadian public domain, no problem. How do I feel about the election results? I feel that the country spoke, and I'm going to stand behind my prime minister, whether I voted for him or not. How's that for a politically correct answer? And I bet you I could read To Kill a Mockingbird. You know what I mean? So, but I'm not sitting here with a pen in my hand. You guys email me what you want to hear. I mean, if you heard something you wanted to hear that I've mentioned that I could read, email me and say, yes, I'd like you to read that. Right? So, because I love reading. It's taken me a long time to get used to reading out loud, because I was never good at it. But I have to have peace and quiet. And then I medicate when I edit, because editing, when you're medicated on marijuana, editing is a really chill process, because it can be a very frustrating process. Yes, Bev. Yes. Thank you, Bev. What did I say? Oh, Wuthering Heights is a ghost story, sort of. And so is A Christmas Carol. Don't forget, I read the Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol. So remember, folks, save that one for December, right? You're going to want to listen to that one again, maybe. How do you How do you spell the movie El Camino? E-L space. No, is it E-L space? Somebody wrote it down in here. E-L-C-A-M-I-N-O. El Camino. Frankenstein is kind of a scary story. Oh yeah, we're almost at Halloween, aren't we? Thing is if I get through, oh yeah, and I could read Bram Stoker too. I mean, but I mean, it's all like, Bev, I met a true ghost story from you. Oh, wow. I've blocked a lot of my childhood out, apparently. But on our way home one night, this is the reason I bought a dash cam that I haven't installed yet. On our way home from somewhere one night, it was late. Howie and I were coming up the highway, and on one side of us was a farm, and the field kind of came down on a hill, on a slant. And on the other side of us was the guardrails and the river, the Gatineau River. And sometimes you'll see something and you'll immediately discount it because that's what you've been taught to do. But Howie and I were driving along, and it was slightly foggy, but not really foggy. Fog is a really good reflector. Did you know that? Fog, but it wasn't heavy fog. It was just kind of little patches of it. And all of a sudden, we saw a light go bink, bink across the highway. And it was 3 feet above the ground. And it was as if somebody had taken a laser pointer and outlined the upper shoulders, neck, head, and antler of a deer. It had the upper shoulder shape, but it was like a white light, and it was instantaneous. Like it had jumped across the highway, and it must have gotten hit. So we were driving, and it went bing, bing, like that. And I went, I just saw a ghost. And Howie said, so did I. But if one of us hadn't acknowledged it, we would have forgotten about it. And no, it's not. No, it's E-L-C-A-M-I-N-O. Here, hang on. Sorry, why am I spelling it out loud? L. That, by the way, is Howie's favorite car. He used to have an El Camino and he trashed it. Dracula. Oh, I got lots of ghost stories. Here's one. I moved into, when Arthur was a year old, I moved into a housing complex with townhouses. There were, blocks of them were connected by a hallway, but you had a little patio and a little bit of grass out in the back and some privacy fences. And it was subsidized housing because I was a single parent. And at one point, this was before I met Howie. At one point, my brother and his wife were moving up from Toronto to Peterborough. Now, these housing units were brand new, built on a farmer's field. And I knew quite a few people living in that block. Some people I went to college with, some were family, you know what I mean? People I knew, right? And my brother and his wife were moving, and their kids were moving up from Toronto, and they had no place to store the piano because they were going to live with my sister and brother-in-law and their kids while they looked for a place to live. So I got to use their freezer, their washer, their dryer, and their piano. Now, to me, a house isn't complete without a piano, and what I want for Christmas is my piano tuned. I'm one of those I see dead people. I do. And anyway, Anyway, the piano came to my house in pieces. Because they dismantled it to bring it up. And the keyboard was on my coffee table. This is great big an upright piano. I think they call them an upright grand, like a great big, piano. And the soundboard and the harp and everything were leaning up against the wall and all that stuff, right? And a piano specialist was coming in a couple of days or the next day or whatever to put the piano together in my living room, because I was going to have it in my house until they took it, until they had a place to store it. And it was just Arthur and I. Arthur was, a year old. And he was in the room across the hall from me. We had 2 rooms and a bathroom. And I'm laying in bed reading a book. I'm laying in bed reading because I read every single night. It's an OCD thing with me. I'd read a cereal box. I have to read before I sleep because it helps me empty out the squirrels from the day. And I'm laying in bed reading, and I heard dong, like a chord, like a 5-note chord, bong on the piano. And I went, oh man. And I went downstairs and looked. Nothing. The piano's apart. You can't make that. It was the sound of the hammers hitting the harp. Not like somebody plucked those chords, like the hammers hit the harp. So the guy came and I phoned my sister-in-law and said, you got to tell me if this piano's haunted. You got to tell me right now. Because where they moved from, I had lived with them while I was pregnant with Arthur in Toronto. And the place they lived in was batshit haunted. Literally batshit haunted. There were rooms I couldn't sleep in their 2-story apartment because they were all old houses. It was called the Bain Co-op in Toronto. Very haunted place. Anyway, so she said, "Oh, Bev, you're being ridiculous." I said, "Kathy, I just heard a 5-note chord hit that piano." I said, and she said, "No, Bev, don't worry about it." Right? So Mark, the guy who was putting the piano together, came the next day. Right? And I asked him, I said, now I've got to ask you as a piano expert, as he walked in the door, this is before he's even touched the piano or gone near it. I said, is there any way that dismantled as it is, that piano could make a 5-note chord without, as it sits all by itself? And he went, oh no. And he went and he checked the soundboard, and he thought maybe the only way it could have happened is if like 5 strings broke. Or I said, no, this is the sound of the hammers hitting the harp. I've grown up around pianos. I know what they sound like. And I said, so that couldn't have happened. And he said, no, obviously your piano's haunted as F. I said, not my piano, but it's not going to be here much longer. So that kind of things. That's not too spooky. That is a 9th chord. What's a 9th chord? I don't know much about piano. I can barely play at the kindergarten level. What's a 9th chord? What is or does that have some kind of significance? The man who built the house died a year earlier. Oh, well, it's not so much like, and I'm telling you, some of the crap that went on in that newly built, I thought it was safe because it was newly built. But when Howie moved in, he was a native of Peterborough. And when he moved in, and I said, he didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't have any kind of real belief system. So he learned a lot from me until we got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And then we found a path to peace for us. Right. But he said, and I said, it can't be haunted. I said, it's brand new. He said, Bev, this is so-and-so's old field. I said, so? He said, there could be bodies buried in this field. He said, a lot of shady shit went down around in this area of Peterborough. He said, God only knows what's buried in that field. Right? So I went, oh, okay, that would explain a lot. And there's also the fact that, I'm kind of, for a long time, I didn't realize I was a blinking beacon. And I had to be taught how to shut down the neon light that was coming out of my aura that said, hey, spirits, she's open, come on down and talk to her, or drop in and say hello, let her know you're there. I had to learn how to shut that off. So, I mean, I still see stuff, but only when I am allowing myself to be open for it. And I'm really careful about that. All Dickens are in PD. Yeah, all Dickens is called Ryerson U. Why shoot the teacher? Awaiting reply. It is what happens on the property sometimes. Well, and it's also the person too, right? I mean, I had a really hard time. For the amount of time that I lived in Sunshine Homes, which was like 4 years, 2 of it with Howie, or 1 of it with Howie, 3 of it, I don't know. Okay. But for the 3 or 4 years I lived in Sunshine Homes, I learned real fast not to talk to anybody in my living room about spirit activity, because it would start stirring crap up. It would start, because there were other people that were experiencing stuff. Thank you, Tom. How can I shut it off? I see stuff all the time, and it sometimes scares me to death. I feel way too emphatic sometimes. Oh, I get it. Empathic, sorry, not emphatic. How you can shut it off is you have to find your center and your place of where your meter is like this. And then you have to go into a place of prayer and meditation and align yourself with the positive side of your faith and anchor yourself there. Okay? You have to anchor to a contact. For instance, I have a one-on-one contact with the God of my understanding. I choose to call God. Okay? I have a one-on-one contact with God. And the more honest I got with myself, the clearer everything else became, including activity. So what I did is I found my center. I found the strongest part of my faith. I don't mean religion. I don't mean belief. I mean my faith. And I anchored myself to that. And then I built a shield. And it's the shields. I'm getting tired just talking about this. The shield is, for me, is a ball of light that when I'm meditating and I'm at center, I'll go back and move back. I don't want to run over Gracie. It's a ball of light that I push out from my solar plexus. Okay, that's the core of my peace, the core of my safe place. And I push that ball of light out, and I start rotating it around my body, and then it goes on an angle until and it goes faster and faster until I completely am shielded by that light. And then I say thank you, and it stays there until I allow anything in. Does that make sense? For everybody, it's different, but you have to find your place of peace, accentuate that place of peace, and then image yourself making a shield of some kind around yourself, and then thanking it and locking it. When you thank, when you say amen or thank you, you lock it into place. Does that make sense? God, as a kid, that must have been horrible. Oh, hell yes. Swiss Family Robinson. I read that book recently, and the thing is they had it too easy. They really had it too easy. They just had stuff fall out of the, everything they needed just happened to be there. I'm pretty sure that was as a homesteader, that book kind of threw me right off. Hello from South Carolina. Love ya. Love you too. That is the same as chi energy. Okay, well, thank you for naming it. Thank you for naming it. I did a lot of research because every time I moved, because I was raised in a my whole side of my street was haunted as a kid. And I grew up knowing that to be normal. And that's one of the reasons why we were not encouraged to we had such a huge family. Who needed family when you had cousins, right? Or who needed friends when you had cousins? But Gracie's dreaming. You okay, Gracie? You having a dream? She just woke up. Did you see the look in her eyes? So, okay. So if chi is what it's called, I did a lot of research because everywhere I moved, I didn't feel comfortable unless the house had spirit activity. And I wasn't aware that that's what was making me feel comfortable, was that it was home, right? But there have been houses that I will walk in and back out of and won't go in, but that's rare. That's rare. But I had to learn, for instance, the house I lived in Deschênes, when we first moved to Quebec, the first house we bought that we lost in the bankruptcy. I found out after nicknaming the ghost Freddie Fenderbender because he liked country music. I found out that a man named in those 3 Freddie Fenderbenders, his name was a compilation of 2 of those, and he had killed himself in my kitchen. What's the matter, Grace? Excuse me, Gracie time. It's Gracie time. Come on, come here. What are you growling at? This is not normal. She usually jumps on me. What's the matter, Grace? Come here. Come here.
What's the matter? Did you have a bad dream? Did you have a bad dream? Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my spirit to keep. If I die like a broken old fridge, I get to meet Mommy at the Rainbow Bridge. Amen. Got an amen? Got an amen? Give me an amen. Thank you. There we go. Oh my goodness. Was we talking about ghosties and you had a bad dream? All right, go lay down, sweetheart. Yep, go lay down. So I spent a lot of years. I spent a lot of years learning how to protect myself spiritually. Unfortunately, it's just been the last few years that I've learned how to protect myself emotionally. So, I mean, these gray hairs, they come, they come at a price. And no, you're not seeing orbs, you're seeing dust, because I just gave Gracie a scratch and I smacked her coat and it went poof. Mrs. Mike is oh,
Oh, I've read Mrs. Mike. I'm not sure if it's on the Canadian public domain. Yeah, she's Mummy's girl. She's really connected to me. She is. Um, she does not like going in her crate anymore because she either sleeps with me or sleeps with Howie most nights. So anyway, I've been on here for an hour, but it's not. I'm not. I'm not. This is my Wi-Fi. This isn't my phone, so it really doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. Because I just need to relax, play some poker, maybe quilt. And Ryerson, you just called. In Canada, PD is 50 years after author's death. So no to why shoot the team. Okay, 50 years. That's good. That's good to know. 50 years after an author's death. All right. So do your research. Pick a book. Make sure the author has been dead at least 50 years and send me the title. Okay? And make sure you put in the subject bar, can you read this, please? But make sure, again, you've checked. All right? What type of poker do you... Oh, Texas Hold'em. I actually, that's how I got my name, Mrs. Wolfe. Because back before YouTube, when we were we didn't get internet until 1999. So in about 2002, Howie and I started playing poker online. And we ended up belonging to a poker site called Hold'em Radio. Hold'em Radio. And we were the Hold'em Radio Pirates. And we met every Friday night online and played. And we ended up going to Las Vegas, meeting with the Hold'em Radio Pirates. We had a tournament, and I took third in the tournament and got a prize for last man standing before the heads up, right? So I love poker. I just haven't played it in a long time because I haven't had time. But lately I've just been, I played in a tournament in Ottawa about 10 years ago or so that was playing for a place in the tournament that got you a slot in the WPT, the World Poker Tour. So it was like an elimination, and I was second place. That thing started at noon, and I was still playing poker. Me and one guy left at 11:30 that night, and I was so exhausted I just couldn't do it anymore. So I just kept all in. And he earned it. He earned it because I was so close, but the thought of going through another tournament like that to, just to get a place in the World Poker Tour was like, So, but but I love poker. And you know what? When I'm focused, I'm good at it. Everyone says, oh, no, don't gamble. I was like, I don't gamble. You can gamble when you play poker, but it's expensive. I don't bluff. I don't gamble. I play the people and the cards I'm dealt. That's how I play poker. My son with autism always saw and spoke with my deceased grandmother as a kid. Arthur did. Arthur spoke to my Uncle Jim because my Uncle Jim and my dad were best friends. It was my mother's brother, but my dad's best friend because they all grew up together. And he was 2, and he knew never to go into granddad's room. And that confounded me too, because dad's house was new, right? I learned I was being followed, right? But I didn't see Uncle Jim. Arthur did. See, just because I see something, even you could be standing right next to me and you could be a spirit seer. You could be a seer or an empath, and you wouldn't see what I see necessarily because maybe it's not the right frequency for them as it is for you. So does that make sense? So I came down the hallway. Arthur was 2. It was just before Howie and I met. And Arthur was standing in my dad's room because dad had a Viceroy and his living room, dining room was at the front. And then there was the door on the side, and then there was the hallway with 4 bedrooms and a bathroom at the end. So I went to the bathroom and I came back. And even at 2, Arthur was really smart and he knew that he knew boundaries. Granddad's room was off limits, right? So because dad kept his pills and stuff in there, right? No, he didn't. He kept them on the table. Anyway, so Arthur was standing in granddad's room talking to a chair sitting next. That was just a chair that was sitting next to my dad's closet. And I heard him going, no, yes. And I said, who are you talking to, Arthur? Because I learned that you don't go, oh my God, right? Because children don't understand fear. They see it as anger because they have no fear. So if you express fear to a small child, they see anger or negative emotion because their feelings are very simple, right? Anger and joy. They're very simple. So I said, who are you talking to, Arthur? And he said, Uncle Jim. Uncle Jim. So I said, oh. I said, you shouldn't be in Granddad's room, honey. He said, okay. And I walked back down. I continued walking. And I said to Dad, I said, because we weren't allowed to talk about it as kids because too much crap happened on our street. We weren't allowed to talk about it because it stirred stuff up. So I walked down the hall and I said to Dad, I said, I just saw Arthur in your room. And he goes, what's he doing in my room? Right? He goes, because Arthur lived from 11 days old to 7 months in that house. And so he had an attachment with that house from birth, right? I said, apparently talking to Uncle Jim. And he goes, well, he won't hurt him. And I just blinked and I said, Dad? And he goes, he visits all the time. It's my dad's best friend, my mom's older brother. So Arthur wasn't long following me back out. I guess he was stopped by the closet to clunk around in Granddad's boots and came in. And I said, hey, Arthur. And he looked at me and I said, what's Uncle Jim look like? And he pointed to my Uncle Jim out on the picture on the wall of my dad and my Uncle Jim in a boat. He said, and he pointed at Uncle Jim. And I looked at Dad and Dad went, right? So that kind of floored me, that kind of floored me. This is brilliant, Bev. I hope you talk of this again. Preach the truth. I mean, Tom, work on finding your chi. If that's what you call it, I call it my center, but work at finding your place of peace and then projecting that in a way that it becomes a shield. Lock it in place with an amen or a thank you. And just be aware to charge it up every once in a while with some meditation. Oh, yeah. I mean, I got a photo somewhere on I don't know, I probably lost it. But I put a picture up of my dad. My dad built what he called a hobbit window, which was actually a mirror of smoked glass, but it was a big round mirror with square, it looked like a big round window, but it was smoked mirror. And I took a picture of Dad standing at the kitchen table in front of the mirror. And and years later I found it and I said, oh, look, picture of Dad. And I put it on Facebook and my cousin said, who's the couple in the mirror? And I looked and there was a wedding picture. There was a couple, a wedding couple, very, very faintly in the mirror. Followed me all my life. I was a blinking beacon. I have never seen photos of any of my grandparents, and it has always bothered me. They all died before birth. Both my grandmothers and my grandfather on my mother's side all died before I was born. And my granddad on my dad's side, he passed away when I was 7. And he had lived most of my life in a veterans hospital, Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto, because he had no, he lost his legs and stuff. I totally believe I'm a Reiki practitioner. Well, then you know what? You should get certified. You should take the course. My cousin Angie is a Reiki master. So, I mean, I don't rule out anything. I don't know. There is so much we don't know. Hell, we only use 10% of our brain, right? But there is so much out there that we don't know that if we actually understood how much we don't know, it would overwhelm us into a puddle of jello. Seriously, it would. It would overwhelm us, right? I mean, people are just starting to bump up against the idea that we're not alone in the universe. And who says it's a universe? I call it the multiverse, because what happens when you come to the end of our universe? Do you meet a brick wall? Don't think so. So, I mean, there's just so much we don't know, right? There's just so much we don't know. And don't get me started on aliens. So, this was really cool. It's funny the questions you get, eh? Funny the questions you get when you say, ask me anything. Anyway, this is Bev from Reading with Beverly Wolfe. And I am looking forward to spending, give me a couple of days and I will be bang on starting with Anne's House of Dreams. Well, that's why I call it a multiverse. If there are parallel universes, then why wouldn't we call it a multiverse? Because uni means one. And like I said, I don't think that was the most thought-provoking thing my father ever said to me. And he says, universe, he said, what happens when you come to the end of because he said, here's the Earth. We revolve around the sun. That's our galaxy. The galaxy is one of many in the universe. I said, wow, the universe. And he goes, but we haven't been able to look farther than that. He said, pretty sure? He said, you don't meet a brick wall when you get to the end of our universe. And I went, no, that's not what he said. He said, what do you meet when you get to the end of the universe? I said, what? He said, do you meet a brick wall? And I said, probably not. And he goes, then what would be at the end of our universe? I said, another universe. And he said, we'll find out, won't we? So I mislabeled it. Anyway, well, thank you very much. This is Bev from Reading with Beverly Wolfe. Stay tuned because Anne's House of Dreams is coming. And after that, we've decided on The Fields at Evening, a British book on a farming family through the Victorian era to World War II. All right. I love you guys. Thank you for helping me level out because I haven't slept properly in 2 days. And it's making me anxious and edgy. And talking to you folks is just what I needed to do. I love Ask Bev Anything. I enjoyed every second of this live stream. Thank you. Take care. God bless. I love you guys, and we'll see you again soon.